Peace, fam. We back up in this piece, and we're talking to our brother Ryan. This guy is incredible. I feel like I've known him my whole life. That it'd be like that when you meet people that's really family in spirit, and you know we got to do more of that. Brother, thank you for coming to talk to me.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it, to be honest with you.
Great. I am too. I'm looking forward to it. Where did you grow up at?
South Sacramento.
The South Sac?
Born and raised through and through. First spot was over here off 47th by Rainbow Park. In the baby days. Oh yeah, right there. I'm literally right across the street from Rainbow Park. Then over by Power Arena, Stockton area, and then over in the Valley High area where that was a majority of those teen, or not even teen, but like from, let's call it 6, 7 years old till about 15, 16 years old. And then we even moved over to that pocket, Fruit Ridge, Oak Park pocket right over there by Johnson. And then after that, grown at that point. So, but yeah, it's literally saturated in the South.
Wow.
Through and through.
What schools did you go to?
Oh man. Started off was at Charles Mack Elementary. Shout out to my Charles Mack family.
The Charles Mack?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right
up the street at Cedar Ridge. My grandma stayed there forever. So that was like home base. Then about probably 5th, 6th grade year, went over to John Reith, then over to Jackman, and then Valley, and even closed out at Daylor at the senior year just because of some conflicts with supposed to be transferring over to Johnson, but their calendar was a little bit different, so I had some stuff we had to work out there. But yeah, ended up finishing up at Daylor too. So, but yeah, Valley High through and through it's just that's where I felt like the most of my development was at, is South Sac Valley High area.
What was it like going to Daylor? And for a lot of people, how would you describe Daylor?
Daylor.
Because I thought it was a school for pregnant teens when I was coming up.
That's what it was.
That's what it used to be. It could have changed.
That's what it was. It really was in a large respect. And I mean, it was some of the cats who, just for whatever reasons they want to show up to school, kind of caught up in the life, being the street life, whatever it may be. And the cats who just didn't care or had some issues at home wise. So for me going there was a little bit of a challenge because I had messed up, like my freshman year a little bit on some of my credits. So the catch-up speed was like a little bit off for where I missed time in my senior year. So my dad was like, we were either like, hey, either you can switch over to Johnson, try to catch up there, or if you come back to Valley, you can go through Daylor for half a year and then come back to Valley and finish up. And I'm like, no, man, I missed my whole senior year. I mean, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to just take classes at City, because when I got to Daylor,
Keon said he got kicked out of Valley and went to Daylor too.
Brother, man.
All these great men in Daylor.
I'm telling you, man, hey, it's something to it.
I love it.
It's something to it. But honestly, like at Daylor, I felt like that made me mature a little bit quicker. Because even though like I'm gonna address the school side at first, like the educational side of it, because it's a big disparity there. And for a lot of folks who, if you got kids that are going, if you know kids that are there, please do your part to kind of get them some supplemental education. I can't speak on the teachers who are there now, and even some of the counselors who were there before. They genuinely cared for the kids, but you have some teachers who are just kind of like, man, I don't know what to do right now. The curriculum is way behind and whatnot. So like for me, I literally wasn't learning anything at my time at Daylor. So I talked to the counselors and was like, hey, I don't know what you guys want me to do here. I mean, it's easy credits, but that's not doing anything for me. And I think I had to just take like an advisory class at Daylor, and then all the rest of my classes were at Sac City. So that caught me up on time, graduated and all that stuff, and it was good to go. But at Daylor, though, just because of the realities of, young mothers, like I said, a lot of my friends who were, again, in the life, and some of the situations that were popping up then, and just knowing where people were really at, really made you kind of assess it like, okay, well, where am I going to fit into this paradigm? And at that time, I was working at Foreign Mall, which, man.
Foreign Mall, boy.
Yeah.
Anybody out there remember Foreign Mall?
Man, y'all got to remember Foreign Mall, man. That was the one.
That was the place, though.
Yeah, and I was at the music store at that. So
wow.
You walk in, Sam Goody right there in the front, our left side. Oh, yeah, you heard us slapping something in there. Always have some good music. But from there, just like opened me up into like a lot of adult things. Like I ended up getting into club promotions a little bit and just kind of really being an adult well before the time I was supposed to, just because of the opportunities that kind of came to me. From kind of being in the space of music, which I still love, but I don't love it to the same depth I used to then, maybe because the quality ain't as good. But I'm gonna be quiet on that. I'm gonna, that's just my personal.
Let me ask you this: do you see any similarities now? You being a young person now, I mean, then and then young people now. Similarities you see besides the technology, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's a lot of young folks looking to belong to something. You know, when I was coming up, it was heavy gang in terms of Bloods, Crips, and whatnot. Like there's about 3 or 4 Crip sets and 3 or 4 Blood sets all through South Sac, and that's between Valley High to Meadowview alone. Yeah. Before you even got over to, you know what I'm saying, the other side of Florence, and there's still that over there too. But and not even counting, you know, the Oak Parks and the Heights and all of that. So that was a big part of it. And I mean, I felt like it was so many different sets because it was the same thing of young folks want to belong to something. I was lucky enough to have some OGs who really, like, you know, got at me a little early, like, you don't really got to do that. You know, you think a little bit differently. So don't even really worry about rocking like that. And I really wasn't somebody who was going to follow a lot of things anyway, unless I understood what I was doing it for. But just to have that and kind of make sure that I didn't go too far down that path was big. But I see the same thing with youth now, where it's a lot of different gang sets, but they don't even know what it's behind. Like, I felt like in my era of it, there was still a little bit of a code that was kind of put to it. And a little bit more of a principle, not to glorify it in any sense like that.
No, I get that.
Just that there was more, like, the structure to it was based on some certain principles and whatnot that I don't know if that still exists fully like it does with the youth now, because there's a lot of reckless behavior that we see. And not to say that we weren't reckless too, and there wasn't a lot going on then, but I definitely noticed that a lot more youth have a sense of I don't care completely. And I mean, it's scary because they're younger and younger. Like, you know, 15, 16, 14, you know, depending on what part of the game you're in, if you was hustling or if you was actually banging out there.
Where do you think that comes from, though? If you see more of that now, even though I can remember in the 80s seeing that, because there was bodies stacking up in the streets because of the gang war and the drugs war that broke out. Yeah, where do you think that comes from? Because then we can say we had crack and, you know, we never seen nothing like that before. What do you attribute now to? I say now it's probably because we got a deeper reality of babies raising babies. So, you know, we had, like you said, in the 80s, you know, you had the crack era that came and that broke up a lot of homes and tore a lot of homes up. Well, coming out of that, you had the single mother homes, you know, single parent homes, divorce homes, what have you. That, again, kind of left folks kind of in between, like, okay, well, where do I kind of find that at in the streets? And at that point, too, you had to remember that because of the crack era, gangs shifted a lot more to the making money aspect of it. So that was a whole nother dynamic that was at play too, of how you getting this money out here. But now I think it's because that same era of what was going on, you had a lot of young mothers and young fathers that were being created, and they weren't even understanding how to be an adult yet. They were still trying to figure out for being a kid. Now they were put in a lot of adult situations, but that didn't necessarily mean that mentally you're there, the understanding wasn't there. Some folks are lucky enough to have, you know, that mom who was just like, I'm not going to let this baby go down that route that this might have happened to, and they might have been coming out of their own struggle too. Let's not forget that. Like a lot of our parents, I was very fortunate with my mom and my dad. You know, they had their struggles too, but it was a lot different. Like they kept me on structure. But a lot of my friends, a lot of my family, for that matter too, they had different difficult situations where, you know, our parents had to do some healing and some development too, while they still did everything they could to provide for us. And put some different work ethics and things in this of that nature. There's a lot that didn't happen to that degree, or it was a broken installment of it. So you come into now, you have this 16, 15, 17-year-old kid having a new life come in and wanting to do the right things, but not really sure how to do that, and still being a kid. You know, you're still wanting to have life and experience things. So it's very hard not to be pulled to, especially when your friends are doing certain things, to where you hear a little kid cussing, not laughing at it. Because like, oh, that's scary, that's funny. But realizing that that's going to turn into something else, you know. For the ones that, you know, have their own just one kid, sometimes we tend to over nurture them and be a little overprotective, and not overprotective in the sense that we'll keep them sheltered, but that our kid can do no wrong and they should deserve to have everything, especially if we didn't have nothing. Which that's real talk. That kind of leads to that entitlement sense of where you see some of these kids now, you can't tell me nothing, who was you, right? Yeah. And it's like, oh, whoa. And it's a trip to me because I always remember, man, you talk back to an adult, you got to watch for several hands coming at your mouth to get you smacked in the mouth. Like, your mommy and daddy might get you, but it might be an aunt, it might be somebody who has that respect within the family tree to be like, hey, what you doing? And you're like, okay. So that was a big thing that coming up. Like, you just had that respect level for a lot of elders. And you see that going now. Like, where I hear some of my folks who are teaching and whatnot, the way that kids talk to them, and it's like, whoo, like I had to stop from being, you know, back in South Sac version, and like really want to get at this kid. Like, I was about to put hands on this kid. I'm like, man, I hear you, but
I think it's a product of the parenting and the lack of, and honestly, something that when I look at it deeper, I think that we really got to look at how are we preparing our adults as intentionally as we're preparing our youth, because some folks have been parenting for 10 years and still don't know how to parent. Some have been doing it for 15 years and still don't really know how to parent. And where I say that, it's just, what are you instilling into your kids to where you're understanding that it's not just for the here and now, but what is this going to carry over to for the next 20, 30, 40 years of their life? What is it going to grow into? What is that going to adapt to? And, I know a lot of people kind of get at me, oh, you don't know that, you ain't got no kids.
Oh, please. I hear that crap all the time, but then people call you to help you with your kids. I mean, I think that's such a cop-out.
Yeah. But and the other thing for me, because I got a lot of nieces and nephews, and I don't care what anybody says, them is my babies.
That's right.
Please believe if something happens to them, it's happening to you.
That's right.
It's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And my sister being a young mother, my middle sister, I was in middle school when my first niece was born. And I mean, she lived right there. Like, we were in the dang near the same bedroom. So I'm literally watching and helping my oldest niece develop and whatnot. And I'm seeing a lot of things that are going into her. So like, I'm noticing little things like, how much do we pick her up? She was a happy baby, so she didn't really necessarily cry a lot. So there wasn't like a need to she'd throw a fit. She wouldn't really throw a fit, but you pick her up to play with her. But for the most part, you let her kind of be her and walk around and do the whole thing. So a lot of even now as an adult, I see less the entitlement. Now there was a part where some of my other relatives did do the, oh, let me pick you up every time. I was like, stop doing that, don't do that. And just this other personality started coming out of her when I seen her. I'm like, wait a minute. I mean, to a point where like when she would cry, we wouldn't go, oh, immediately. We just be like, you cool? Like, we wait to see how she handled it, and if she wasn't crying, we like, okay, it ain't that bad.
Yeah.
But not realizing as I got older that she was playing off of what we were giving her, because babies
are playing for real.
Oh yeah, but they're sponges. So like that first time a baby falls, they look up like, this hurts, and they're like, how bad is this gonna be? If you go, oh, they're gonna start crying and boo-hooing and everything. And you're like, you all right? They'll be like, and you can see in their face like it really hurts, but they like, nah, I think I'm gonna work with this. And it's just something that I realized, like, what we feed into them at even at that early age, bears so much in their personality as they're going into those next stages and whatnot, but even in the long run now. So it's like, I got to stop myself when I see her with her baby. Don't pick her up too much. You watch it. And stopping her only because I see how intentional she is about being a parent, but also, like, wanting to, like, try to nip it in the bud from that entitlement getting in there too thick at a young age, because I just see it playing out in some more youth now. It's just...
So, Sister Danielle says she's curious about your thoughts on spirituality of brothers his age. That's a very good question. I am too.
Sister Danielle, that's my sis right there, man. Much love to you, girl. Shout out to you, man. She's a big part of my development and the deeper dive into my spirituality, to be honest with it. I guess I gotta ask a little bit, because then I ain't gonna just throw myself out there with a wide range of questions. What do we mean in like spirituality within like brothers my age? Like, is it something that? All
right, she trying to type something in there. Peace, Brother Daryl. People signing on in.
That's
but I just know, like, so she's gonna clarify that what she means by that. So you may see me looking down. It's only because I'm inviting people, to chime in. So I'm gonna give her a moment to kind of talk more about that.
I guess I can go into what started my spirituality a little bit.
Let's do that with you, and then maybe give time to get her question on the other side of that.
Yeah. So with some of the, so good.
Oh, you good.
With some of the stuff that I kind of went through with my own family while I was coming up, I got a real unique childhood from most people. Like, a lot of people say, oh, I can understand, I can relate to what you've been through. For me, I literally lived a lot of situations. It looked like she responded.
She did. She said, how would you describe the spirituality of brothers your age? What does it look like? How y'all experience the divine? Great question.
That's a great question. To be honest, I'm finding with a lot of the dudes, at least the ones I'm connected with, and I guess you kind of drawing those are kind of similar to you, or a magnet of that type of energy. But a lot of the dudes I'm coming across and that I've known for years, more of them seem to be spiritually based. Some, of course, a lot of them come from Christian background and whatnot. And I don't necessarily hear our traditional ways of what, we looked at church like, man needs to be the head of the church. And I don't hear that in the conversation, but I do hear a focus of a moral compass of what's right and wrong, and still knowing that there's a greater purpose I'm supposed to serve within a lot of them. So if that looks like going to church regularly versus praying regularly, I think that's the bigger dynamic that I see. Like, I know a lot of them are deeply in tune spiritually within their prayer practices, really asking questions. And it's not even something that a lot of them openly speak about. Now, some of my brothers that I get deeper dives into, we'll go all the way in that conversation. And, you know, I think that's really refreshing, because I don't think that's something that we've done enough within my generation, our age group of it, especially when it comes to spirituality. But, and religion for that matter too. But even myself, like as a non-denominational Christian or whatever you want to call it, I follow the practices of the Bible and whatnot, but it's really a conversation with God. Like, so much more of my learnings come from literally intentionally like praying deeply about, like, I heard it said, are we praying to God, having conversations about our deepest fears and our deepest desires? So when I'm talking to God in prayer, because that's what I feel prayer is really just a conversation with God about where we really at, and help me understand this or where we got to go. A lot of times I'm asking to understand what it is I'm going through and seeing, and that's been a development process to get to this point too. And as I do, I get lessons in it, and it's not even a lesson in that direct prayer. Like, I'll pray about it, and then in the coming conversations with people, I'll have little things that are kind of revealed, and it's like, oh, word. And it's things that I can point and give other people context, if you will, about what God looks like in senses where it's like, okay, how many times have you been walking down the street and you'll be looking down and you'll just see a rapper that says like, word up, and you're like, oh, and it just grabs your attention. There's no reason that it does. It just grabs your attention. Like, okay, word up, all right, cool. And then you'll be having a conversation with somebody random or something like that. Or no, you won't be having a conversation with somebody random. You'll be listening to a random interview or like a podcast or a song, and it'll like say, word up, word up, word. Okay. And it's just like triggering, like, okay, why is it standing out to me? And then you'll have a conversation with somebody, and they'll be like, man, when I took this word up, the octave in my voice, and people heard it more, and now it's starting to be seen, like, wait, what? And now you're starting to just draw this connection, like, okay, these are totally random things that have no direct connection to one another outside of this one string that's kind of being strung along. And to me, I relate that as the voice of God trying to show you something like, yo, I'm always present. Are you always listening? So when I'm showing you this rapper stuck out because you weren't seeing anything else that I was trying to show you at the point, but you did see that much. And through this song, whatever you were hearing, you heard it again, and then you had to reaffirm, and then you have that one moment where it all kind of just comes together, and you're like, oh my God. And I feel like a lot of people have that moment where they just like, wow. And it's like in that you can kind of track back that, okay, God's been talking to me the whole time. I didn't realize it until I seen this string of events that happened that were completely unrelated. And I know that was nothing but God. So I think like that, walking people through that kind of helps us have a deeper conversation, especially with my brothers, about what does your spirituality look like? Are you really practicing that? Are you really going deeper into that? But I think it's also something that we need to have a regular conversation about of what is your faith? And not even necessarily, it doesn't matter what religion or faith you subscribe to, but what do you believe in? You know what I mean? Like, what's that thing that kind of you hold near and dear above all else? And for some people, that's going to be different things. But I've been fortunate enough to say that the majority of brothers I've been coming across, that is a faith of a God representation, whatever that looks like, be it Muslim, be it Islam, or Buddhist, Jewish, whatever faith it is a representation of God.
So here's something interesting what you said. You said you are a Christian, or non-denominational. I think you'd be Christian and have it be however. How do you, because we live in such an era when people say like, that's the white man's religion. And I just be like, yeah, y'all know we created these people. I'm sorry, newsflash, y'all. White people came out of black people. So I feel like, how do you deal with that, You know,
it was funny.
And not be asleep.
Oh, yeah. It's funny because the first places where that really happened to me were like, which a lot of people identify as coming into your consciousness or whatever, with the conscious movement and whatnot. And there'll be a lot of my conscious brothers, it's the white man's devil, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And I'm somebody that I believe that everybody has, when somebody's arguing something passionate with you, there's a truth to that they know. So there's something that you can glean from that perspective. Right, wrong, or indifferent, there's something you can learn from it if you listen. Now, I'm not saying that you need to listen to everybody, because some people just saying some crazy stuff and you need to just whatever. But and a lot of those times, like, I'd be listening and I'd see them break down verse after verse, and then, well, your Bible tells you this and this, and I'm like, so this argument started off of you telling me that the white man taught me this religion incorrectly. Now you're doing the same thing. You're teaching me something with these same scriptures in a different way. So is it bad word or bad teaching? And if it's bad teaching, well, if you're spiritually connected, you're going to have a spirit of discernment that's going to let you know that that ain't connecting with me the same. Versus where it breaks through and you know, like I said, that moment where you know it's God. So for me, it's been a conditioning spiritually that's happened. It started back when I was 16 years old when I first got saved. But up until about 22, 23, I would say that I am an infant in my word, in the word and in my relationship with God. Because I would try to read the Bible, and I'm very good with words. I can read all that good stuff, and it wouldn't make sense. Like, it just didn't connect. Like, I can understand these stories, but I'm like, what does this have to do with the price of tea in China? Absolutely nothing. And I got to a church where they kind of like, they gave the practical application where they made it relatable to what you're seeing now. And I'm like, oh, that's what it's saying. And as that started happening, I started learning more within the word. But the thing that was blowing my mind, and I think I've realized this more so in the last like maybe 3 or 4 years, was that my spiritual growth was happening that entire time. It was just happening in a different way. So where I started realizing that I had that spiritual growth was I'd realize that there's moments where life is just completely chaotic. No matter what I'm trying to do, it's just getting worse. It's not working out. It's like, man, what's going on? I'm somebody that I like to think through, strategize, plot it out, and then take the steps to get there to make sure that, you know, it's on a level. And I'm like, there's no way I could put a plan to this right now. It's just going crazy. And then it'd be those moments where I'm just like, all right, God, I can't do it. I'm going to give it to you. And at this point, I'm going to just give it to you, because if I do anything else, it's going to be bad for somebody, because my patience is shot. I can't do nothing else. And the next person who says something the wrong way, they're going to have to deal with everything that I've been bottled up trying to get through this. And it'd be in those moments that I see God move in an amazing way. Like, I mean, crazy stories I can give you. I can give you 3 or 4 of them if you really wanted them. But in those moments, and I realized like how quick in an instant that whole dynamic will change on its head. And it was kind of like God saying, that's all I've been waiting for. When were you going to look back at me? When were you going to focus on me and stop focusing on you trying to get through it all? So with the growth period that I realized where I started maturing was, how long would it be between those moments where I realized I wasn't focusing on God? So at one point it was, you know, it'd be years in between where I'm not, even though I'm praying on a daily basis and whatnot, I'm not focusing on really submitting and giving that, you know, giving space to that and giving everything to him as far as like, okay, you got a plan with this. What are you trying to show me versus what I'm trying to see? You know what I mean? And
I get that.
So, but that timeline would get shorter and shorter and shorter to where it go from years to a year or two to months to weeks to sometimes it happens multiple times in the day. Now, to be fair about that, though, it also go backwards too. So where I'm constantly trying to be as intimate in a relationship with God as possible. It's sometimes I might be doing that, thinking I'm doing that, and it can be a week or two or whatever where I'm realizing like I haven't been doing it in the way he's trying to get me to go there. So it's a continued training and development. So the way you did it before, okay, that's good, but you're beyond that point now. You got to get it a little bit more intense, a little bit more rigorous in what that training and development looks like. So for me, that spiritual growth has been a big thing that helps me identify when somebody's saying something to me that's like, oh, well, your Christian faith is a lie from the white man. Really? Because I pointed to it like this. If whatever creator you want to believe into made us look very different in our shades and our tones and everything that we are, wouldn't it stand to say that he would present himself in a way that's most relatable to that person? I mean, if you even look in the Bible, it doesn't say that God just showed up this one way. He showed up as a burning bush at one point. You know what I mean? Why would a burning bush be relatable? Because that's what got his attention. That's what he needed to see at that point. Moses, you're talking about, to really speak into and understand, like, yo, I am here, know what I am. And to me, it's always just kind of funny where I hear people that want to dispel your faith because of what they view the religion as and not what your faith is. And that's where I'm just like, yeah, man interprets religion. So if you want to lean in that, cool, go ahead, that's you. But I'm focused on something spiritual. Spiritual is going to tell me if what you're saying is something I need to hear or if I need to get away from that. And it'd be the same thing. If I'm hearing something, I'd be going to church that entire time, but it's not falling on my ears. It's not connecting. But then I hear it's like, oh, okay, there's a lesson in this. And then even where like I can give testimonies and whatnot, and someone's like, you know, that's in the Bible. Word? Because I don't remember scriptures that well. I know stories from it. I just don't. And
that's all right.
I just don't. But I can remember some of the stories that I've learned through the scriptures, and I'm getting a little bit better. But as that kind of happens, somebody else who is very spiritually in tune will be like, okay, hold up. Open up your Bible. I'm going to take you something. And then I walk through, I'm like, wow. And my mind's blown because this is literally a teaching, living experience. I know this is long-winded. I can be long-winded.
No, it's okay. I was gonna say, what is the work you're doing now?
I'm doing my life's work, and within that, it's developing to teach and grow the next. There's different ways it's manifesting. So, in a 9-to-5 sense of it, community organizing with SAC, which shout out to Danielle, she kind of led me into that path. It wasn't something, and she led me into that as I was also guided into it spiritually. So it was a timing thing. You know, some people kind of ask, how'd you get it? I'm like, yo, as crazy as it may sound to you, this is really a faith walk for me. Like, I can't make that up to you. And it was something that prior to getting into community organizing in that sense, I was literally already reinvested into the community anyway, because I come from a corporate background doing all types of different professions in different industries, literally trying to learn business. And what I learned was that, one of our biggest problems within this systematic, this white supremacy system that we live in is that we can't even find our ways to teach and give back to our own and own our own. So there's multiple problems, be it healthcare, be it finance, be it education, be it literally ownership of land, just go down the line. And when one person's looking at it like, dang man, this is too big for me to solve. Well, you ain't supposed to solve it all. You're supposed to play your part to solve it. So when I looked at that, I was like, okay, well, how do I play my part within this? And within what I was being taught and what I was actually just striving to anyway, of owning my own business and understanding every facet of business so I can do that to the best ability, I learned that, you've done it in different environments, so you can teach people how to own their own business and operate and do that. And within doing that, if you do it to its fullest ability and do it for the right reasons, you're in turn helping that greater cause of what we're supposed to do. So you could help a doctor have their own doctor practice. You can medical practice. You help a dentist have their own dentistry practice. You can help a seamstress have her own clothing line, fabric development, as well as a cleaner, and just going down the line of everything that we would need to sustain our community for ourselves.
What is SAC Act? What is that?
SAC Act is Sacramento Area Congregations Together, faith-based organizing. So the clearest way I can try to put it is that we look at how do we get our communities where they need to be through our moral lenses, because it's multi-faith, multicultural. I guess it's one and the same in that sense. But within that, so it's not saying that one faith is better than the other or disproving what any of the faiths say. It's that within the core values of what your faith tells you, how should we be living with one another? And generally, for that I found in my own faith walk is that at the core of every single faith that you look at is love. How are we operating in love with one another? And there's characteristics, there's principles of love, and how that breaks down what that looks like. And as you kind of get into that ultimately kind of gets us that moral vision of what it kind of looks like as a community that's one. So that's kind of how we approach it. That's the way that we look at it. So we work with a lot of clergy folks and whatnot, but we also look at what are the structures and how do we actually shift power dynamics from those who are marginalized, oppressed, at the bottom rung of society for a lot of folks and whatnot, and how do we understand the power that we have naturally in our order and our space that we are righteously called to shift that power dynamic back into the hands of the people.
Give me your ideals. What is for you as a man, what does family look like one day when you have your own family, what would that look like for you as a Black man? For me,
it's a big family. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's
talking more than 10 children?
Whoa. Okay, so I say big family. In a media sense, like I personally, I come from a family of my blood family, 2 sisters and myself, so 3 of us. An extended family, I have a lot of step siblings and the whole nine through the relationships my mom and my father went through. And then in my extended family beyond that, I have a lot of people I call brother and sister. Like again, the Danielle, I consider you a sister too.
Yeah.
And it's a difference between that. But within the family of just Black men, like bloodlines and all that stuff, I consider it a big family or I look at it as a big family. Is that 1, 2, or 3 kids? 3 is probably my number.
Okay.
Maybe 4.
You said just, big family. People be talking like 10 children.
Well, because I think of lineage as far as like, generations and brothers and sisters and nieces and cousins and all that, because like the dynamic with my family was always that we'd have our family gathering where all cousins and aunties come over, and because we had 2 sides of the family and both sides of my family were relatively big, it'd always be a big gathering.
Gotcha.
So when I say a big family, it's like, we got heck of aunties and cousins and everybody who's coming through. But even within our own, that one home unit, I think probably 3 or 4. And of course, it's husband and wife. Gotcha. It's husband and wife. Like, of course, it doesn't always work out that way for various reasons and whatnot. But for me, it's very intentional that who I am blessed with to have kids with, that it's my wife, that we're pouring into these babies in such a way that our family tree is going to be that much bigger. We're producing good fruit that's going to produce better fruit.
That's right.
And it's how intentional are we about settling that in and sowing into that, and the type of water that we feed into, and how we nurture that soil and that seed.
How do you know the woman? Like, I mean, so when brothers, like our sisters are talking about they want to be married, even though they feel like, I ain't marrying nobody. And then it's like they really do want to be married. But what characteristics are you looking for in a woman to be your wife? What is wifey material or wife material?
I'll say this because I feel like when we get to those questions between men and women, people feel like it's going to be a cookie cutter, like the qualities are always going to be the same for everybody, and it's not. I think we kind of touched on that a little bit in our Sunday conversation, but so I'll start it off with saying that it's going to look different for everybody depending on what your personality type is, what your role is, what your view is with life, and the whole nine. For me, loyalty is always a big thing, and I say loyalty not only to myself or our family unit, but to yourself and to, even most importantly, God. For me, you gotta have a spiritual connection there, because I can't lead a home and you can't follow me in a home if you don't know who I'm following and why I'm following that.
All right, now.
To where you trust what it is that you can trust the decisions I'm gonna make. If I'm gonna make a decision where it's like, hey, just trust me in riding with this. Now, I also believe in having somebody who's strong. And when I say strong, I definitely don't mean in physical strength. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can be that. We need to be shaped. We need to get shaped. Don't get it twisted. But, you know what I'm saying? I don't want, Hope to come out there, popping her naked. Like, I don't need that masculine energy. That's just not what I need. I love every part of a feminine woman. I love a woman, and a feminine woman is just one of the greatest things, especially a black feminine. Oh my goodness, black queens. Ooh. Tell you, there's nothing better. There's nothing better. I appreciate every other culture out there, but man, just something about a black queen is just untouchable. But within that, it's that I look at, I say strength in the sense of, heaven forbid, something happen to me before, whatever time it's supposed to be before our kids, whatever it is, that I know she has a type of strength and loyalty to provide for our kids and pour into our kids the same way that I would. That there's not going to be a walk away or turn down or anything like that. That is your priority fully and 100%. Because, like I said, it's how are we pouring into good fruit for them to produce better fruit. And it's a collaborative effort. It's man and woman. It's an energy flow. It's a balance to it all. I'm a Libra too, so I'm really.
Libras are very balanced people.
I mean,
I know that to be true. I'm a Libra. So.
Hey, we get it. We get it. Right. You know what I'm saying? The scales, man. Y'all get it.
Yeah, y'all understand that. So let me ask you this then. Do you think, I have to make sure our preference is right, sometimes it feels like some brothers, because for me, I know that other cultures exist, but I'm not talking about them right now. And Lord knows when they had their conversations, they don't always be talking about us. When they're trying to take care of their own self. Sometimes it feels like in our culture that some black men don't necessarily think about that when they're participating in activities with women. They don't think that if I have a child with this person, what's going to happen? You know what I mean? Like, will she be worthy enough of carrying our children through, even if we don't make it or for some reason? It's like we have a lot of children out there who don't know their fathers.
I think there's some misconceptions that come from the realities that we face, especially as we see, some of the single parent homes, some of the dudes who just don't show up. I'm not going to say dudes just don't show up.
Right, that's why I said some. That's what I'm not trying to say.
But I also think that we got to look at where that comes from. What's the deeper root of that being kind of produced? So one thing I can speak to in my own reality, but just even brothers across that I've known and come to know and whatnot, is that what we know as love may not be the same thing that it's approached as from a woman all the time. Because let's be honest, men are not educated in life in emotional intelligence. So we're, again, the ways that we can have a hard day can look very different in what a hard day manifests as. Some days that can actually be backbreaking work. You know what I'm saying? I'm in 110-degree heat putting roofs together on houses, or, you know what I'm saying, I'm pouring concrete and getting ground settled in. It could be a mentally taxing day. You know, I'm working from sun up to sundown, literally trying to figure out problems that are going to affect kids for the next 15 years in the school system. And it's also that reality of being in a masculine setting. A lot of times there's always competing interests. And where I say masculine setting, I'm not necessarily even saying like a physical violence side of it. I mean, like, just so standpoint of how do you position yourself to where what you are standing on is known not to be tested, because you're kind of protecting him. And what I mean by that, like, again, if I'm fighting for a principle within a school or a structure I'm putting together, and I know I need to build it out, I can't spend my time constantly just defending that position as much as I'm developing how it's implemented, how it rolls out. But I have to do that because there's going to be other competing interests that are trying to move that off that point. So it's a constant strain that you're kind of living in within that. And you realize the traumas that we as Black people have, just going back to slavery. That's real talk. And that when we come home at the end of a long day and just having to kind of like whatever posture, and even within our own culture, of seeing certain news that we don't know and kind of having that energy where it's just you know what I'm saying, just, and I've done it, you know what I'm saying, like, it's been something I've done too, like I don't know what your energy is, so I'm gonna just kind of like watch you a little bit, and I don't know this brother at all, and I should really be like, yo, what's good with you, which I do that a lot more now. Like, I've, you know, in my current day and age, like, I'm almost loving anybody I see, mainly for different reasons, but just to realize, like, that's a part of it too. Like, you know, so you're walking around with this armor, if you will, all day, and the first thing you do when you get to a female or a woman that's able to kind of connect to you and make you feel like, okay, you know what, I can be a little bit more calm and relaxed around you. You want to fully be like, oh, let me relax. They say the statement, mama's boy is daddy's girl, right? Why is that so important? Mom is the first person that gives a boy a sense of comfort and soft and caring and all of that. You know, you can go lay on your mama's lap and you're like, oh, okay, because you know daddy's gonna come down on you like, hey, you need to, all right, I got it, you know what I mean? Right. But mom's the first one to let you know it's okay. You don't gotta be like that. And if you're mama's boy, then what? That's a bad thing. I mean, grown women assess.
Yeah, yo, mama's boy. Right. Don't want to run in your mama.
Exactly. So that's a bad part. So then when you finally get to those girlfriends and stuff like that, you're like, okay, well, yeah, I like this. Then because we don't know emotions the same way, we haven't experienced that the first time that we have this female friend that's kind of pouring into us differently and just like, oh man, that's crazy. You know, you got me feeling all this way. We're like, dang, this must be what love is, because I ain't never felt these emotions before. Where a girl who's been, you know, educated in emotional intelligence from the time she's grown up is just like, nah, man, like, you just cool. Like, it ain't even that. And that's where that first heartbreak comes. It's like, oh.
But do you think the mama's boy thing is bad like that, or can be perceived like that because a lot of mothers don't have the balance of the father? Because usually when you have mama's boy, but they have a father that's there, he know when to tell his wife, hey, back up off him from it. Like, hey, stop babying the boy.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? But I find some of that mama boy stuff is in families where there's not dad there to provide that balance of back up. Like, hey, you don't, you know, let him stand up. You know what I'm saying? Like, let him, or whatever it is. I find sometimes that in our culture, we do have some mothers who almost see their sons as their man. And I don't mean from the sexual point. I'm talking about in terms of the man of the house. And it's like, well, no, he's really not the man of the house. That's you know, being a man, first of all, is a little bit more than what we can give.
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying? So, and then we live in the era where people are trying to confuse the two. A girl told me once in my class, and I had to stop it. I was so puzzled by what she said. I posted to Facebook, like, y'all got to help me out. She said, why is there so much support for when people want to be other? If a boy wants to be a girl or whatever, there's support for that. But or mixed couples, like it's okay to raise. She said, but there's no support from when you're a girl just trying to be a girl, or when a black girl wants to be with a black boy. There's no support in that. And I often wonder, how are we going to address that as a people to make sure that we don't get overlooked? Like even with this Black Panther movie, look, they did it the way they're supposed to do it. Now, if you want to have a bunch of other people, then go do your own damn movie.
There it is.
There's people who I think are anti-black. I don't support their movies. I don't write about it. It's like they don't exist to me.
And I gotta throw this in there too.
Please,
for everybody who's interjecting on that, there are 1,000 foreign films and languages that you don't speak that are made every single year. 1,000 of them. Big budgets too. They win Academy Awards. I don't hear anybody pushing back. Oh, well, why is this just a strictly Latin movie? They only have Latin characters in there. They only speak Latin. Or why is this just an Asian movie? They only have. But when we finally do it to a big scale, there's pushback, and because we're celebrating it. That's colonizing.
Yeah, I think that's.
But I had to throw that.
No, I agree. I also think that shows how other people support white supremacy, even though we know it's a problem. It ain't sometimes just the white people. I'm talking about the so-called people of color. I hate that term, but because all color is not the same. Yeah. Or just from other black people. And I feel like y'all, like, come on, like, look at your anti-blackness and check that.
Please do.
Don't wait for the white people to come and say something that you're going to be mad at them. Be mad at yourself.
Yeah,
what did you think about that Black Panther movie?
Oh, I loved it. I loved every part of it.
What you love about it?
Man, what didn't I? Like, so I'm somebody that I'm heavily into art. So, like, I love and appreciate art to a deep, deep, deep technical degree, even though I can't create like that as far as, like, brushstrokes and all that stuff. So the imagery alone that you're seeing in there, from some of the backdrops of the settings to the colors that are popping off in, and it's wrapped in melanin. That it's very connected to Earth in a natural sense of just like, even where they did like the cliff scene and how they had that part where they reduced the water from the waterfall coming down as heavy it was, so they could actually have the challenge and whatnot. And even if you looked at what was used for that, it wasn't like it was a bunch of levers and pulleys and machines down there. It was a water wave that went through and activated this stone cyclone, if you will, that kind of sucked the water down. It was just like the natural way that so many of these advanced technology wise, but it was still rooted in tradition, or at least traditional elements, if you will, in it. And then down to literally like the dialogue and the wordplay as far as like how you heard Northern California put in there. I love that. Let me shout out to Ryan McClinton and Michael B. Jordan for bringing some more love to Northern California and the way we talk into a major setting, because I'm so sick of people talking about California with a New York accent. Look, that ain't us. Don't get me wrong, we got some New York folks over here, but nah, it's a little different. But to what the dynamics that played out. So make no mistake that it being in Oakland, a revolutionary black setting as a city, even in the 90s, in the midst of all of that, where it connected to Wakanda and a people of power and pushing for righteousness and the whole nine. I love that dynamic kind of playing out. The black relationship, black love being represented in the way it was. Oh, that was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. And it wasn't, you guys touched on it in your conversation with Danielle, but it wasn't hypersexualized.
No, it wasn't.
It was very intimate still.
That's why I think it didn't matter if there was, it's not, that's when you realize that sometimes that'd be a bunch of BS, because it was very natural, and it wasn't a whole bunch of, nothing in there was extra.
No.
That's what it was.
No.
It wasn't flamboyant. It wasn't extra. It wasn't imitating what we think something is. It was just. And here's the beauty, and I think in us, the culture, is that it wasn't extra, and it was so extra. Yeah. Because, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just we have a flair to us. Like, we have a magic to us. It's so just, it stands out, and it's like it is what it is. Like, when I think about, when I've heard, and this is on timelines too, and just like talk with different folks, where I heard about the parts where people found something attractive, it wasn't even like, the ways that we see, let's call it in the music videos that we've seen in the past or whatever. It's something that I appreciate. Like I said, where I love a woman, I love like the lines of a woman. Like,
a woman can be extremely sexy to me, and I'm not looking at one curve of her breast or her butt. It could be her feminine lines in her neck, and just the way her skin kind of contrasts, and just how her arm and all that looks like. It's deep, and I feel like you had that from both sides for women and men, because I hear women, oh, I love Michael B. Jordan's this and that, and somebody said something about shoulders. I said, so it was weird. It was weird for me to hear that, but it was like, oh, I appreciated the shoulders. I'm like, I get what you're talking about, because you appreciate the lines that were built with. It's a certain physique to us that we have. Like, I'll give a moment away that like had me. I was like, oh my goodness. And it was dope too, because I posted the video up earlier where Ryan McClinton was walking through the scene and he was just talking about all the different art things that he did in there.
I've seen that.
One of the things that he was talking, or he didn't necessarily highlight in there, and I was a little surprised by it, but it stood out to me, was when they were walking down the steps. And that's T'Challa and Okoye. Is that how her name is? Okoye. And they're walking down the steps, and just the way they even came down with that presence, and that just
you see us.
Oh yeah. And it was powerful, but it was also like subtle in the sense where it's just like, oh, okay. And that dress that Lupita had on, boy, look, I'm gonna see some of y'all walking in type of dresses. Hats off to you. Yeah. But there's this part where like you just seen like her, at first it was like her lower leg, you didn't even see her thigh come out. You just see her just beautiful dark skin, and just I was like, oh man.
Absolutely beautiful.
And it was beautiful, it was sexy, it was all that stuff, and it wrapped into one, and it went right into like some get busy action scene that was just like crazy over the top. But it was just, like I said, it was just so many little things that I appreciated that were done in the detail that made the greater sense of what this picture was and the storyline that kind of came out of it. Even that much deeper. And I'm somebody, I love layers. Like, I love to watch something multiple times and see something different every time. I definitely feel like Black Panther is going to be one of those movies for a lot of people. Oh, you're going to see something different. Like, whoa.
That's going to be a part of it. You can't really understand Black progress, Pan-African or whatever, without seeing that movie. What did you think some of the more underlying themes were in there? Underlying themes, in there was.
So one of the big ones, I think, that was touched on, and I think it needs to be, I think it's one of those, like, those seed planting things for a lot of people, that it was unaddressed for a lot of folks, and it was addressed by other people, and people didn't want to go there with it, and it was kind of put in a really real way of continental Africans and African diaspora, where there's this belief that we have on either side of it that we're not accepted or we're less than, or on both sides of it, that may not just necessarily be the reality. Like, when I hear a lot of people that Black African Americans that go over to Africa, they speak so highly of the love and just the connection and the energy and all of that, right? And I haven't heard an African that I know, be it Ghana, be it Kenya, whatever, that'll say something along the lines of, oh, well, we can't stand when Americans come over here. It's not that. Like, I haven't heard that energy yet. I've heard it represented in other people's views of what that is, but I haven't heard it directly. And I'm somebody like, yo, let me see it to believe it and hear it all night. I'm not going to discount that somebody may have encountered that, but that's not the reality I know. So I think that conversation of,
it depends on how you show up.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I've seen some African Americans be ugly Africans in travel in Mexico, and I've had that experience. I was like, are we down here treating these people the way people treated us? Are you kidding me? So I'm a bit shocked at that. I think the only thing I've experienced on a lot of Africans, and I've heard some say, why can't y'all just pick a tribe and stick to it? Because I think they don't understand that we don't have a tribe. We're a tribe in ourselves. I mean, I just think some of them may not understand what happened to us. And I feel like when you want to move past, I find myself apologizing a lot to younger people for people that did stuff in my era to them. Even though it wasn't me personally, I did live in the era. So I have to say, I'm so sorry we weren't there for you. So it wasn't me personally, but I mean, I want the healing to start.
So I want to ask you something. Based on it was a conversation we had, I got to ask this question because it brought it to my mind, and this question's been asked when we look at the American experience or experiment, if you will. But when we're looking at our Black and African culture wise, I wonder, can you identify this? So you told me that a lot of Africans can identify what tribe you're in just by your features and stuff alone, which makes complete sense, right? I've been to Mexico, and I could see the difference in between certain Mexicans depending on the region area. I'm like, oh wow, like your literal body structure and whatnot, and bone structure and all of that, just even your height and all that stuff can kind of go a little regional wise of where you kind of originate from as a people. So I bring that up to say, within the horrible reality of what the transatlantic slave trade was, versus the other diasporas that weren't necessarily into America slave trade. I mean, there were other slave trade routes too, but there were other folks where we just migrated that way. Do you feel that for Black folks leaving the continent, that it's been more of a tossed salad or a melting pot? Does that make sense? So, like, I'll give you an example. So,
please.
So if you look at New York and Sacramento, right? Sacramento's always been one of the most diverse cities in all of America. Like, this is census fact data, right? You look at New York, we know New York is extremely diverse for culture and everything.
Extremely.
The difference between the two, and folks can kind of speak to it, is when you go to New York, you see and feel and smell the cultures there. That's more of a toss out. You can identify the individual flavor that you're tasting with each bite, right? When you come to Sacramento, it's extremely blended. It's melted together. Like, the cultures are kind of, now again, there's pockets of where cultures are, or you know what I'm saying, like, divided
up. I get what you're saying, but I think California is definitely not a melting pot, because we could go right now. We can go to the Mexican part, we can go to the Asian part, we can go to everybody. Now, Black folks, we are like sprinkled everywhere, but we have not melted. I'm just gonna be honest. East Coast, because I would say that's more like probably both for tossed solid and melted. Because you have, what I like about New York to me is the planet. It's not even like it's a planet. You can find a Black person there, they don't even speak English. You can find a Black person there who speak French. You can find, whole communities. And then there's other groups that are there as well. But I think the thing of it is that the East Coast people and the Southern people, first of all, the South is where a lot of us came in at. And then some of us ended up North, you know what I mean, running from slavery or trying to have better jobs. And then we ended up, they call Chicago, up South. And then most of them, then some of us came on out here to the West. But I think the further we moved away from the root, we lost even more of ourselves. Does that make sense? So you were in the South, and even though we had slave culture, I mean, if you want, I don't even know if I would even say that. I think we were. I would like to believe. I know my ancestors were enslaved. I would like to think all of us were enslaved. But I think some of us could have just been slaves. But it's okay. But when you went up north, you kind of tried to forget it as a bad memory, but you still had the mannerism. I mean, somebody like, where are your people from? And I could almost tell what part of the South they're from by their mannerisms, how they talk, how they say certain words. You know, even when I'm in Chicago, I could always tell people, you from Mississippi? Where you from? Arkansas? Like, I immediately know. When you come out here, this has been an experience I've had. I've seen Black people look me in my face and not even speak back to me. Oh, yeah. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, that pisses me off.
And I'll be like, hey, you know, I kind of get, so for me, I don't know, out here, it's almost like, and this is not all, y'all, I'm just saying it's my experience, because I'm an East Coast girl, I'm from Philly, but I have Southern roots. I know my people are from the South Carolina and places like that, and the Gullah Geechee Islands and things like that. But I do see that out here, it's almost like you're forced to give up who you are to belong to the fake melting pot, which is definitely not melted, because you still have white supremacy. Absolutely. You still have like the Russian River. And listen to the things we have. I mean, the Russians came in this way. You have a lot of different Asian cultures because we're closer to the east in a different way, coming in from the Pacific. So there's a whole history with California. And I think it all makes us have to go back to that root, which takes us into the South, because that's where a lot of the trauma started.
I agree. And I asked that question because when I'm thinking about even how we kind of identify as Black Americans and how different we are, that we can trace our roots to where we came from in the South, but it's even we have to go through the ancestry.coms and the DNA things to find out which African country we came from. So in that regard, I was kind of looking at, did slavery put us in a melting pot we didn't want to be in? Within the blending and the breeding and all of that.
I'm just going to keep saying it's not a melting pot. Like a melting pot would be like you went somewhere and we just all blended in together and all is well.
No. I'm not saying all is well.
Okay.
No, I'm not saying all is
so because when things melt, it's blend. You know, you melt it all like butter. When butter melts, it's just butter. You know what I mean? It don't have lumps in it. It ain't like the pasteurized cheese that won't melt. I don't know if you remember the government cheese. We don't know what the hell they were eating. Right. But there was some of it's like we not melting. So I think here.
Okay, so where I say most, I'll give you more
okay, good.
So
thank you.
within the actual cooking side of it,
okay,
like think of like a stew, if you will.
I'll take a stew.
Up, you know what I'm saying?
I'll take a stew.
Where, you know what I'm saying? So like you can still identify the flavors, but like
I can take a stew.
Everything else is kind of mixed in with it when it. I can take that.
I think America's like that, but I think the
because the carrot's still a carrot in the stew, but
it is. You know, I just feel like, and I think I'm gonna be honest. This is something I learned from being with Jewish people, and I'm gonna be very honest. And they've given me such gifts in terms of how we must always resist and never let them make the story sound nice. I don't care if you're reading, I don't care if you see the Holocaust film, they're gonna always let you know that was horrific. Yes. And they will not like, oh, even today, even you know, you be like, some of us get sick of it, but I feel like no, you ought to be sick for yourself and not explaining your story that same way.
True.
Slavery was horrid. True. It has changed the DNA of Black people. That's a fact. Completely. I love science because science, you got to prove it to be a fact. But I also know that when you take a people and you do all the horrible things you've done to our ancestors and we survive here, I feel like slavery should be something we learn, about the horrors of it. Like we need to know it as fuel.
Yes.
As fuel. So don't let people ask you that. Don't be ashamed to be and say, I ain't ashamed. Are you crazy? I am so honored to be descendants of them. Do you even know that?
Those are the strongest people the strongest people to survive through that. Don't
have me start up in here.
To survive
Anybody who know me know that.
You have to have the strongest of. You are the cream of the crop for that reason.
Now I would say this, because of slavery, we got Michael Jordans. I'm just saying, or LeBron Jameses, or these superhuman kind of looking folk, because they were trying to make a prize horse or a prize. I'm gonna tell you, when I say these stories now as a 46-year-old, I remember the first time I heard some people. And you're right, sister, the best organs. You better tell it.
Yeah, yes.
You better tell it. And so I feel like I remember elders telling me that. And me feeling kind of horrified at first, like, so for a long time, I was afraid to go to the South, just based upon the stories, but then my grandmother on my dad's side, she really hated being up north. She hated it. Yeah. And she really wanted to go back down south. Now that she's old, now she won't go back, which is great. I love her. But for her, those memories, like, I don't know if you ever had a bad experience somewhere, you don't run right away to go back to like, this is where I was held hostage at. No. Look at this old place. We don't go down memory. For some of our elders, it was not that beautiful. No. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the story, because I love Panther, but I feel like what is opening the door to is for us to look at that. It saddens me when I see Black people do their DNA and they focusing on the 8% European and forgetting the 91%, Black. Like, come on, y'all. Like, this is kind of.
I can't believe he was Irish. Really, bro?
I had a Black man go to show me his great-great-grandfather who was a slave owner. I just was like, I just said, there were Black people who fought on the Confederate side. I know what that means. But would you tell that to a Jew? Would you say to a Jew, this is my great-great-grandfather who was a general inside of Hitler's army?
Yeah, he was a full-blown Nazi.
Yeah. Would you really do that? And so I don't care what people think about Jewish people. You better not come at them crazy or disrespect what's happening to them. Oh, yeah. We got to take a page out of that book, y'all. I'm just being honest. And I think with all of the holy books, that's us. Brother, if you believe it or not, who else have been in bondage?
Man.
What group is that?
From culture after culture trying to keep us in bondage too. Like, man, it's not lost. I agree with you 1000%. It's something that that's why I think it's so important that as we go through that, we got to be able to go through that, and we got to go through it to understand how we need to heal and what we need to heal. It's great to say, I'm gonna go to the doctor, get help today, and then you go into the doctor's office and like, doctor, I'm sick, and you're like, okay, well, here's some medicine and you're cured, and he has no idea what the heck he's treating. You're not gonna go to a doctor and be like, yo, give me some medicine to heal me, and not tell him what it is that's messed up.
Real talk.
You get some heart medicine, and that's the last thing you needed, but your foot's hurt. What's that gonna do for you?
That's so.
You just gonna be taking something like, okay, well, I got the medicine, but is it really curing you? So I feel like we really gotta understand what our pains and our traumas are in the first place, so we can really address them in an intentional way.
And I think that's why the crack epidemic was so planned, and how we even got caught up in it. I'm using the word got caught up because I was always taught in life there's choices and maybe yes or no, but it's your choice. And if you choose to do something, own the shit.
Yeah.
So my mom's house, you couldn't say they made me. My mom, who the hell are these mysterious days? Where they live at? You know, because she would not allow us to not be the full human beings and the gods that we are. She wouldn't let us act like we were like they created us. No, we created them. Because even in slavery, we built America. We taught them how to be civilized in slavery. I mean, so y'all, it depends on how you want to look at this. I'm just being honest with you. One sister said, I grew up, we Blackfoot Indian, did my DNA 4 times. Zilch Native American. Zilch. I fire walk, I sweat keep, I do all of that. It's all good. I didn't like the percentage of white in me because here's my thing. I'm not in love with like claiming my oppressors or the rapists because I know that I shouldn't even have that in me because we ain't got no white people in our family like that. You know
what's funny with that part of it? It's always been something that's giving me confidence moving through the world, right? So my name, Ryan McClinton. You can't
Irish?
Right, exactly, right? Ryan McClinton, and you want to add in one of the middle names. If you know my father's name, Charles.
Yeah.
You can't get much more Irish than that. So what do you think would happen when I turn in a job or a resume for a job? And I'm good with words, so it's going to be the diction is going to be read in such a way where it's like it's very professional. So I come out, Ryan McClinton, waiting to probably see it. And here it is, this black dude with braids and a 3-piece suit sitting there, just looking at you like, I'm Ryan McClinton. I'm the only male in here, so you should know who it is. But now I've seen you and your racism kind of pop out, like, oh wait, he's black. And it's this thing that happens like the moment they realize it, and they're looking at you, and they're having just a mind fuck of what's going on. Like they're like, wait, he got braids? Is it that? Wait, but he's in a suit. Oh shit, he's early too. Oh god. And I'm just watching the whole time, looking dead in the eye, like. And now I'm going into that interview where they're more nervous about what they're going to say to offend me than it is me about what this job is, and I play on it every damn time. And it's like I have permission to make you comfortable. And it's the ownership of our power that I think we have to get to. You have to know who you are and what you represent and what you're about, because when you're in these situations with white folk or whatever, if you know who you are, you know who you are, you know who you are, you know what you're gonna be.
That's why other groups don't have the same problem with white people. We be sliding in brown people. What the hell is that? They have a whole industry. What you got? I mean, so I'm just saying, like, they know that they're proud of their Mexican heritage or El Salvador or Cubana or whatever. You know, we the ones who, wait, you got to give. I love during the interview with the cast from Black Panther, and the woman got up and asked, what's the sister with the dark, with the bald head, with her beautiful self from Walking Dead? And the person asked, of course, it was an African American. Sometimes you can see so many contrasts between us. It's almost kind of sad, but it really shows you who we are, some of us. So she said, do you think this film would help Black people cast more for Black people or whatever, and then we can get in more budgets, people write for us or whatever. And so our brother who did the film gave his nice answer. He tried to be nice about diplomatic. But the sister said, who are these theys? Like, you know, why can't we just build our own stuff and create stuff and just bring our own self to life? Why are we asking other people to bring us to life? And I thought to myself, that's a question that a slave would ask. I don't think that's a question that Harriet Tubman would ask. Harriet Tubman would be saying, we leaving, right? We out, right? So they're going to say, we got to ask this white man if we have permission to leave.
No.
So she said, create your own stories. And she started talking about things she was working on. And I think sometimes for some people who come from that mindset, it must puzzle them when they see us always begging people to give us something we should be giving ourselves. That really must, I mean, they may not say it to you. They may, you know, but I know in their mind, I say, what is wrong with these damn people? Who asks is there a rapist? Okay, so I'm gonna need a place to stay now. Cause you burned my home. I mean, like, y'all, come on.
It's that, to me, it stands out as that thing of that conditioning, that teaching, that conditioning into submission. You know what I mean? Like, just think of our schools. Literally think of our schools from K through 12. Like, I don't know if you've seen the video. They had a video that, and I reshared it because I thought it was one of the dopest things I ever saw. They said the new Bushes are going to be in the White House, but it's not how you think.
It's blackmailing.
Yes.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Part of that. And the best thing that I loved about it was, again, Black man, Black woman, raising their Black babies,
and they were brilliant.
Yes. Homeschooled the whole way.
See, that's some sacrifice.
Hear me. No, wait a minute. I push back on the sacrifice because did you understand what the mother was? Yeah. Architect and a lawyer. She fully had her career and she was fully there.
No, I agree, but I'm saying the sacrificing piece with some of our people is the holdup. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I can send my children to a school that I have to worry about their safety and people going to treat them well. They say something happens to black boys and they get out in the 4th grade. So how can we send them to the killing fields? I mean, to school and expect them to learn when little Timmy's always supported and little Harold is cool, and then as soon as little, Yaheem do something, we be like, sit down, Yaheem. And I feel like y'all sacrifice. That's all. If my mom said, if you don't learn nothing else from me, remember it's all about the sacrifice. When you choose to bring children into this world, that means you have to give them everything. Yes. And I don't mean like Jordans or whatever. It's about sacrifice. Read with your kids. Yep. How do you want to develop them? Don't let them go around people. Let me tell you something. I have a great nephew. When he look at people, my nephew's so happy. But if he sees somebody, he clings to my leg. I'm like, yeah, what you want? Mm-hmm. Because babies can totally see your whole aura. They know if you're full of boo-boo and everything else. And I tell myself, if a my teacher don't like me, well, what's going on? Mm-hmm. What's going on? We going up there, or maybe we should be home. I know a lot of brilliant young people, and a lot of them were homeschooled.
Absolutely.
But their parents had to readjust their work schedule. That's the sacrifice piece.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure with them 2 bushes, there was a lot of sacrifice. Absolutely. You don't get brilliant like that by sending your kid off to the war zone when they survive. I see a lot of people, we went to the best schools, but you hate yourself. So it don't even matter that you got a degree. If you hate yourself.
And here's the big thing that you 100% right. It's can you sacrifice? Will you sacrifice? Are you prepared to sacrifice when you're saying, I'm prepared to carry this baby for 9 months? I'm prepared to support this woman carrying this baby for 9 months. It's sacrifices on both ends. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree.
Back to that other question about what the family looks like for me. It's that we have to be that partnership.
Real talk.
Don't get it twisted. I believe every strong leader needs to be a strong follower at points too, because trust and believe the queen that I'm going to be blessed with to live the rest of this life out and have babies with, I know she's going to have strengths that I don't yet have. Mm-hmm. And where I'm going to get them from is from learning from her. And the same thing that I'm going to have strengths that she doesn't yet have. Where she's going to get them from? Learning from me. And we learning together. Let's have that discussion.
That's what I loved about Black Panther. Yeah. How the black man, the black woman was working together, and the black man wasn't like upset that she had certain strengths because he had other strengths she didn't have, and they strengths complemented each other, and they didn't have to worry about the other stuff that this society. Another great interview on The View when the sister tried to act like strong woman, and then the sister with the bald head again. I said with her beautiful self. Yes. I gotta get her name down. She said you can be both feminine and strong.
Yes.
And I said, y'all better shut the front door up in here. Because we have this thing where I've heard brothers say, I don't want no strong woman. It's like, are you kidding me? But then it's like feminine, like, we think that means to be totally weak and helpless. Please come save me, Superman. I mean, you could have both. Like, y'all, come on. The women were beautiful. They were all of that, and they were strong and brilliant, and they didn't take away from the king at all. Nope. As a matter of fact, it made the king. You better tell it. You better tell it up in here.
That's my point of like that dynamic between when we get it right, and we have to be intentional about that. Like, I remember one of my favorite scenes of the movie, when they were talking about when she was like, "Okay, I can't stay here. I have my eyes opened up. I gotta go back. I gotta go back out there and fight for my people. I can't stay here. No one is back out there." And he's like, "Okay, well, what would you have Wakanda do? He didn't say, I'm not supporting. What would you have it do? Help me think through this, right?" And I think a lot of people might have missed that. That was one of those undertone scenes where he's like, "What would you have Wakanda do?" And she's like, "Well, we should go ahead and give aid. We should go. We should educate. We can give our technology, right?" Same thing Killmonger said, but he just said it in more of an aggressive tone of like, how do we go and arm it, right? Like,
that's so related to that, brother. Go ahead.
I'm gonna show you something on my phone. I did one of those little personality things. I'm gonna show you who Happy Papa Pass, right? But the dope thing that happened, if you watch the unfolding of the movie, where she planted that seed, and it was fed into, even from Killmonger, about how do we address this, right? And even where he was challenged, he's like, you know what? I don't like you because I'm hearing the war that you're taking with it. He never pushed back on what he was saying about the people as far as like, we just don't go that way about it. And at the end of it, he's like, "Oh, I know how you can stay, babe. And how we gonna do this? I know how we can do this. And then how he showed his sister too. Oh yeah, no, I bought that building. And oh, please, back to this ownership part. Please understand, gentrification is happening because the folks of us who do have it, or the folks who want to continue to profit, aren't realizing the opportunities that they have with where they came from. Property values are low when they look like our hoods. Unfortunately, this is a true reality. That's why they come in, buy them up, and push us straight out. So what happens when black-owned comes in and does exactly what you seen the king do? I bought this building that needed to be torn down, that building and that building, and I'm going to pour back into it.
Look, you right on the money. Y'all, you know we just, hey.
I mean, the building we in right now.
Mr. Johnson, you on it. I'm liking your hearts because we deep in this conversation. I'll tell you another part. So Killmonger, let's just talk about him for a minute. Because I related to him. I just feel like that. I learned so much from him. I totally... God, but I felt like sometimes power absolutely corrupt. That's why be careful when you get totally angry. You ever get so angry, like, did I say that? Yes, you did. I felt like when he got so, he never got a chance to get that resolved, because if he did, he would have been a great strategist, kind of warrior. I mean, because sometimes you got to have a person like Killmonger on your team. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you gotta have that energy.
Gotta have that beast.
But I feel like if you don't deal with those things, sometimes that fuel that are not healthy, that you ain't got no help on, which is like our community. We got a lot of self-hatred and a lot of, as my girl always talk about, rape and molestation, and why it's hard for us to come together as black people and to love and to build, because we ain't got our stuff dealt with.
No,
help me out. I could be wrong.
No, you ain't wrong, because that's the thing that I was glad you said it, what he had addressed, because when you look at everything he was about the right stuff. He was passionate. He was fire behind it. He was not going to stop until he saw it through. However, you said the part of absolute power corrupts. I don't necessarily. It does if it's coming out of corruption. If power is coming out of corruption, it's going to corrupt even more, right? It's going to magnify what you are. So, and it was funny because you heard the king say to T'Challa, T'Challa said to T'Challa that you're a good man, and as a good man, it's hard to be king. And I took that as when I first heard it. You're going to have to make hard decisions, and decisions that are ultimately going to hurt people one way or another, right? But I also think that is the challenge of a king, to bring good to the land that you're serving. Again, good fruit producing better fruit, right? So you see, T'Challa had the power. He had everything, right? He didn't necessarily go off the handle and do all that extra. He didn't go into the left and say, I'm starting wars my whole nine or whatever, right? The moment he was knocked off of that balance was gone. That's when Wakanda started getting messed up. The tribes started fighting. And I'm looking at that was a sad part of the movie too. I don't know if anybody else felt that, but that part where the war was going on, when Killmonger was in charge and the tribes are fighting, and it's like we've lived in harmony up to this point, and within a matter of days, that colonizing part came into play, because he even said it. I've learned it, and we're going to use our own strategy against them. And on the back end of it, T'Challa said, "Hey, man, you are becoming them by doing that, right? That toxicity part of it." And what it did in a matter of 2 days, he said it was that he was really empowered. He wasn't in power like a month in the year. This was a couple of days that Killmonger was in power, and he brought the people to fight. But what I want to get to the point of with Killmonger is that the biggest thing that you can notice was his hurt as a child was never healed. I agree. Now, here's the thing. I totally agree with what you're saying. But what I was saying when I said power absolutely corrupt, when he killed people without no meaning, that's got then his mission went out the window. When he burnt the thing, it was like, that is not a power move. That's like, I don't want anybody to come behind me. That's when you get to kind of corrupt, like, whoa, player, wait a minute. You know, like he did it in Saki, say, hey, we may need this. What if you have a son? Or, you know what I'm saying? Nah, so it's like, oh, that's what I mean when I say that. I think sometimes you go overboard. It's like when people were selling drugs and they always say, well, I'm making enough to feed my family. But they never make enough to feed their families because they get addicted to selling. When you didn't really do, I'm gonna do this one score. I'm not saying you're supposed to do the score at all, but we know people who built their whole empire off of destroying their whole community. Even if I'm gonna open up a school, what's the use of you opening up the school with your drug money when you done killed their parent? You understand what I'm saying? Killed their parent, took the school that was there and turned that whole school block out with kids on everything. I'm right there. I think he is one character that I could totally relate to. When you don't get your issues met,
And Sister Deborah is saying, how do you really deal with it? And I'm gonna say it takes courage. I don't think there's a fix-it ball. I wish I had those little silver things you can stick it in somebody and then they get their stuff back. Yeah, that's beautiful. But I know that it takes courage, and I mean we have to look at how. That's what my mom meant about everything being a choice. You know, you either deal with the now or deal with the later, but you will deal with it.
Yes.
That also is a spiritual concept that we grew up with, that everybody pays before they leave. I know people who still live in all the people that did they all day and they still here miserable as hell because they don't want to get it right.
Yeah.
So everybody pays before they leave. Ain't no shortcuts. I know we like to think so.
Can you break that down to some of the younger generations? Because I need them. I need that valuable lesson to kind of be transitioned through, because that's a big.
That means that you pay now to pay later. So my mom in church said, if you live your whole life and you had no accountability, you didn't help, and but you were a taker, and you just didn't do right by your community. The Creator, or whatever you call it, the Great Spirit, will not let you leave until you pay your bill. You know what I mean? So that means sometimes you see a lot of old people here suffering. You be like, man, we don't know what they suffering is about. Don't get it twisted. It don't mean to be nasty to them and be nice, but they know why they're here suffering. Some people are suffering because they didn't do the right thing when they were younger, or they didn't take care of their children, or they didn't split something with somebody. They didn't do something truthful that caused somebody a lot of hardship. I see that a lot. I see that a lot sometimes with older Black men in my line, where they'll be like, it's like, yeah. Then they look back on it, and these same men will be hard on young men and be like, oh, player, maybe you want to take this opportunity to come clean for yourself, and that probably would help them not to do what you did when you left. Hey,
can you live by what you try to teach? Can you model what you telling somebody? Like,
I see that a lot with men folk. And I'm not saying that women don't do it. Definitely reap what you sow. That's exactly what that means. But my mother always taught me. I had what's called immediate karma. So if I do some crappy stuff, I'm telling y'all, it'd be less than an hour or two, and I'll be like, oh, I know why that's happening. See, I should have just not did that shortcut.
See, and that immediate karma that
I hate that.
I hate it too, but you know what? Because I know you as a deeply spiritual person.
Yeah.
That's to me. But that's what I'm saying. Like I identify the translation I hear that as is that spiritual alignment. Right?
I agree.
You're out of spiritual alignment. It's like that pop upside the head. You know, when you say, I'm gonna go over here, try it. All right. It's like, okay, I got you. Let's learn. And it's a trip, because I feel like you said, within going to the example of Killmonger, right?
Yeah, I love his character.
Oh, I love him too. Like that. I love his character. Like I said, I'm gonna show it to you. Whatever. I love these people.
No, you good. I just felt like he was me. Like he's us, y'all.
Oh yes.
You know, he is us. That's all I can say. And I feel like I like it that he wasn't just a villain doing stuff. That's the they gave you a background. He felt so real to me. You know, like what happens when you feel like people didn't come? Hey, that remind me of Antoine Fisher when he told his mom, "Why didn't you come get me? Why didn't you come? Why didn't you come for me?" Yes. Imagine if you waiting on somebody, they never came, or you see them later, you still mad at them. Then the bottom line is like, you didn't come get me.
And he literally said that as a kid. Well, maybe they're lost because they can't find us.
Oh,
when he said that part, I was like,
because he did see him. You know what I mean? He seen him leaving.
He seen him leaving, and he found his dad's book, because that was the whole part where they're showing, like, you know, as kids, like, why are you always getting my stuff? I left that key so you can find it. You know, the whole thing, whatever. So he knew his lineage. And he knew, again, remember that part when he said, "Ask me my name." The whole time he's there, they're talking the language. He's just not responding. But it never said that he didn't hear him. He's just not responding, right? And he just asked me my name, and he asked him his name in the native tongue, Lusa language, and he responded in Lusa language.
See, I liken that to being an African descendant here and having people act like you're not them because you've been away from home. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You see there.
They had one of them tests. Which character would you end up being? It was a personality test. So I took it. I was like, wow.
Would you do this on Facebook?
Yeah, it was on Facebook.
Okay, I'm gonna have to find mine.
It was on. I think BBC.
I mean to hit that.
No, sorry. It was on like BBC website or something like that.
But I feel like, man, that movie. It was just so many things I could relate to. I do feel like that thing, and not to say that. I think the other part when they said, "Why didn't y'all come for us?" Now that's when I knew that the part we were learning about in the movie was Fantasyland. Because I think the part that we leave out is that Africa was struggling too.
Say that.
Like all of them wasn't. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not saying that Africans didn't sell other Africans, because they didn't necessarily. We developed this Pan-Africanism. We're all a black group of being in the diaspora due to slavery. But in Africa, people are they know each other by tribes. Mm-hmm. You know, the same way we like Crips and Bloods and Democrats and Republicans and East and South and North and West and, you know, Alpha, Omega, whatever the hell, you know, we pledging this week. Mm-hmm. But I think that was the other part. It's like blaming your parent for something that they really had no control over.
Yes.
Because those tribes were still, I thought that the New Roots kind of addressed that. I felt the New Roots was way better to me than the old. And I love the old Roots. I'm a classic lover. But I felt like they did more research because you know that if they had to sell they were selling other tribes. But you think some people didn't try to resist?
See, I'll be honest.
Talk about it.
I can't because I decided not to.
You gotta see it. No. Look here, brother. I wouldn't say it's more historical facts.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It isn't like the white man just came into Africa and took us. No, some of us was in cahoots with him. And other tribes were trying to fight that. That sounds a little bit more realistic to me.
Yeah.
I think that lays the groundwork to why some white people feel that they're superior because they got us believing they just walked up in our house and just took us and we just sat there like, here you go. Yeah. Oh, please, Mr. White Man. That did not happen. We're greedy. We're human beings. We're the original people. So greed is a part of the program.
Oh my God.
We weren't all in Africa chilling and having a sandwich. Like God. It don't work. Like
I appreciate you saying that.
And I thought the New Roots tried to tackle that. I swear to God, especially some parts of it I didn't like, I ain't gonna front. But when they was in Africa, it just felt real. Okay. Like, it was like, okay, that's probably how the story, of course, we're not going to get the full truth. I mean, nobody was standing there back in the day, like, this happening. Right. But I feel like, because that fighting spirit, I feel like when I look at Haiti, they kept the fighting spirit. Yeah. They worked something in their juju. And I'm just going to say it like that. And it had to do with that. It's more like, look, my ancestors were war. You know that we do that now. You go to see a fight, you don't be like, you'd be like, I gotta get this warrior up. You gotta, and you know what I mean? So we come from that. We fought in every war. You're not gonna tell me we're not great soldiers. And that he just came and picked us up and we didn't try to fight or resist this man.
Word.
You know what I mean? Like that happened in the 80s. That happened a lot with brothers and drugs, and people was turning on each other for this white powder.
Man, white powder at that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, brother, look. How would you sum up Panther? Real quick, Panther. We're gonna have to have a feed. We're gonna have to report back. I'm gonna get a whole bunch of y'all in there, and we're gonna have to go for it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go in and like break down. You know what I'm saying? The whole movie. I'll say in summary, it was the full vision of what society is like when we're leading instead of following. When we're intentional about who we are and what we are, and not submissive to what everybody else is subscribed to. And it still showed that we still have our flaws and we still need to work on. That was one of the things I was going to say before we got into that question that I was glad you said is that we have to remember when we're looking at a picture of something or a memory of something, the parts that we're naturally going to want to remember, that the stuff that we'll recall openly, are going to be rosy and great. But it ain't always rosy and great.
That's real.
It ain't. You know what I'm saying? Life ain't always rosy and great. I got the saying I live by. Some of my closest friends and a lot of folks that I talk to have heard me say it before. Straight up, no chaser, man. Give me my truth served straight. Don't water it down. Don't sugar it. Just let me experience what it is, and then you know what I'm saying, we can talk about it, whatever. But don't sweeten it down for me. And I feel like what happens in life a lot of times is we'll get such a diluted vision of what that should be that when that reality drops, you're like, oh wait, I don't know what to do. It's a part of the process. You know what I mean? We're going to have, you've seen it there. You've seen it in Panther where even within these 5 tribes that coexisted, you still had that one tribe that was just like, yo, wait a minute, I'm not happy with the way this is. And I'm going to stand up for it. They still respected the culture and everything like that. They didn't necessarily go crazy with it, but they still very much showed up like, yo, we here to let you know we here and we got something to say about the way this is being done. I lost, I got to check that out and I'll move on. And I think that was a big thing too. How do we approach conflict? How do we resolve conflict? And how do we move on together too? Big message of it. But I feel like it was one of those movies that kind of gave us that reality of what it looks like when we're leading instead of following, how we're working in unity. But how does that actually look in a daily and constructive way? how can we coexist? How can we build one another? How can we have these very different views and ways of who we are and find a way to make that blend together in far advanced than what anybody else can factor? Because I do believe it happens and it can happen and it should happen for us, because I'm sorry, man, we're a people. America showed you, because one, we are that strongest gene that we just talked about, but also that we're somebody that you give us a little bit of something and we can do something better than anybody imagined.
But that's what original people do. That's what makes it so magical, y'all. Come on.
Yes. So,
I'm doing the Statue of Liberty.
He kept it with that one too. Yeah. You also pull Statue of Liberty with it.
Statue of Liberty.
Yo,
but I also felt like one of the marching orders I felt is that we have to really talk to our African brothers and sisters that are here. We need to really have some serious dialogue and not get up, like, be very. So I before the film came out, I did a retreat for some young sisters, and one sister was from Jamaica, one was from Ghana, other two were African American, and we sitting around, and man, this is when the little sister said to the American sister who just came back from Ghana, she was very excited, blah, blah, blah. And the sister said, I don't understand. The Ghanaian said, I don't understand why y'all just can't pick the tribe and stick to it. And then Takara was coming from the Pan-African, because we are people who are away. We go to Africa and fall in love with it, but we don't live there. Yeah, it's like being in love with your house, but I don't have to clean your house. I just can come in and show and eat. Y'all just treat me very lovely, and I get to leave. I don't live in the house. I don't have to clean the house. I think it's all these different dynamics.
That's real, though. That's real.
But I love the fact that they were having this dialogue, and they were all in their early 20s.
Yeah.
You talking 20, 21, yeah. And so they were really, and the Africans, she talked about living here and how people call it African booty scratcher. She was dark skinned, and then the other sisters, but they all were dark skinned. This is really, different shades of being dark, but they were still dark. And they really talked about that. And I think for me, it was beautiful. I think that kind of dialogue has to happen. Someone just said that he just slid through all the money we spent watching. Brother, I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't mind spending my money. So you know what I'm saying? And I know all the black people who got paid because we wasn't supporting the film. And some people, because I don't know if you know your history or not, we built Wakanda here a few times after slavery. So I would like for you to do your history. And that's if you're African American, maybe you're not. But I find when people are really trying to criticize how much money we spent, it was well spent, because I'm pretty sure, who do you pay your rent to or your mortgage? You paying the Fannie Mae? Where do you buy your groceries at? Where you buy your clothes at? I think we got to stop this damn criticism.
And here's the thing.
Stop drinking that hater juice.
Let me add something to that too. Understand? Yeah, we paid a lot of money to folks, right? I'm happy with it too, because I realized what the investment was, right? You have a director here who's now giving you 3 very impactful films with leading black characters, reimagining things. Now, one was a actual documentation of what happened. The other 2 are reimagining, right? Creed was a reimagining of Rocky with a black lead. Going through struggle. Look at Rocky's storyline and look at what our reality has been. But I ain't gonna get in that because we're on Panther right now. And you look at Panther, right? And Panther was even a reimagining of a storyline from a comic book, right? The comic book didn't have as many as some of those elements that were added into it and gave us this bigger, richer view of it. Here's the thing, though. You've now given them the budget of their own to say, if I want to do another big budget film, not only do I have the credibility of what it's done, it's broken box office numbers. Yeah. So getting somebody else to put out the next one that I want to do, why not do it my own, right? Make no mistake about it. For all the criticism that Tyler Perry's gotten for what he's done, he's been putting out his own films for a long time. They filmed some of the stuff in Atlanta. That's who it is. That's who it is.
I don't know if the brother knew that. I just feel like some of us, we criticize the wrong stuff. Yeah, go criticize this hip hop music that our kids spend money on. I don't know if your kids do. I don't even know if you do. But you don't criticize that you give them money and they give us nothing back. We don't get anything back. And so I just feel like, and we have people like the Nation of Islam. And I think it is a criticism, because you don't know where people spend their money, sir. Hell, we all been building stuff. You never know. We make these grand assumptions, and you don't know. The Nation of Islam does a lot of awesome stuff. There's all kind of black organizations that's out here doing stuff in groups, and they are building theirs. There is no one magical group. I don't like spending my money with people who always say what you should do or what we could do, because they usually ain't doing. Yep. So that's what I find. I could be wrong, brother, and thank you for tuning in, and it's all good. But I think sometimes We come from this place of you ain't studied. You go look at I don't know if you're African American. Look at our history, even here in the U.S. We've done fantastic stuff. Yeah. Go read that stuff, not just Black Wall Street, but all over. Right after slavery, the Reconstruction era, we did a whole bunch of building. So it's possible, but I feel like I don't really care because all of us spend our money with white people who own everything. If you got a mortgage, you're paying white people. Yeah. If you got rent, you're probably paying white people, or you're paying a Black person has to pay white people their mortgage. So let's knock it off.
Can I say this too? Can I say this too? Even if it's that person says they ain't paying, you know what I'm saying, a white person for nothing. Have you met the greatest pimp in America? Oh, excuse me, I just said his name. Have you met the greatest pimp in the world? It's called America. America gets paid for everything. You, brother. Much love. All love. But I think like and that's the other thing, man. Part of what we have to get to healing is we got to be able to have a direct conversation. That's right. We're agitated people. So sometimes our conversation is going to come across agitated. That doesn't necessarily mean that we ain't there. Exactly.
They do that in Cuba. You think they get in the fight? They discussing soccer.
But we're passionate people. It's going to come out of it. You know what I'm saying? And we also know when that energy is like, whoa, you just fully coming at me, right? Sometimes. I'll say sometimes because when you're dealing in trauma, you don't even realize you're coming at somebody sometimes.
That's so true. That's so true. Right on.
But when it comes to that dollar piece of it, man, we have to understand that the economic structure has been set up that you're always paying white. Whether you think you're not or not, when taxes come, guess who you're paying?
I agree. I'm right
so
with you.
You look at that part of it, and it's like, all right, well, where do we refund? How do we funnel that money in a different way? So again, I look at where we put that money into certain pockets. They were doing this on somebody else's dollar. So now if they want to make a straight Black film that's going to talk about something that Hollywood ain't going to feel comfortable with, they can do it because they have the money to do it themselves. And we help give them that.
That's like to say, sis, I solely feel you. I was just going to say, I feel like that's a great, the brother's like, I feel you, but I'm right there with you. I just feel like we should take that part and send it to people who feed our people garbage and make millions of dollars every year. And we don't say nothing. We say, leave the young people alone. Are you kidding me? We got people talking about drinking syrup and all kind of other stuff, and I don't see us going to town on them, but somebody who's doing something righteous and great, and not just young, about, because I've seen people's posts, and look, y'all, take a book out of the Jews. Please take a book out of them. You didn't hear anybody say anything about Harvey Weinstein, and the man was wrong. But I haven't heard any Jewish organizations say anything bad about this man. Really they just like, look here, well, that's on him. They have a way of being like, well, that's on him. Then they become individuals, but they won't say it like it's a part of their collective. I mean, Bernie Madoff, he's Jewish, and he look here. They act like the man wasn't even Jewish. They don't even tell you that the man was Jewish. So I just feel like with us, we gotta learn to just celebrate and take this moment to keep pushing us, so that when you do, maybe brother, you gonna put out a film. Because I always say, hey, did we go support your film? I just know we support a lot. Like the sister trip, that made a bunch of money. I didn't go see it. But nobody said nothing about how much money they made, and I didn't think the film was promoting anything great. I would want my daughter to see. I know some people are like, oh, you gotta have fun. Well, that's on you. I think you can have fun, but you ain't gotta try to be nasty or you know, like I don't always follow white people's example because sometimes it ain't good. We try to follow them most of the time, and they usually, you know, they the outcasts from their damn people. You know, and we be trying to follow what they do because we think that they're the leader. You are the leader. And so I just feel like we just have to support each other, y'all, and stop being so damn critical of each other. Because it's not that deep. It really isn't. That film, I'm hoping for the babies, to be honest with you, that it plants something in them so they can start seeing themselves. They can start seeing tight sisterhoods and tight brotherhoods. And what does it look like to have your own for real? Yes. You know, imagine yourself.
Where you've built an entire society. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
An entire society, like right on. Like it's and it's not far fetched. Like,
no, it's not.
Some of the technology, like whatever, you know, the vibranium, whatever. But the realities of what they were talking about, they built up. That's not far fetched at all. There's a lot of ways we're already doing that. It's can we be intentional about it? I know some brothers right now that are in engineering, and they went in engineering as far as like, you know, the science and STEM part of it. I'm in construction, and that's big because don't know if you know this, but construction is one of the oldest global networks in the world.
Hello, peace. This is a question.
Right? Yeah. So it's like it's
Try around now and see how many else you see.
Oh my gosh, right? Brother Ross, salute to him, man. I love his contract. I mean, I love what he does in such a way that a lot of people don't even talk about that. I want to lift my brother up every chance I get, especially where folks don't know how intentional he is about it.
Right.
But there are a number of industries and things that we should be doing and owning. When we want to be critical of one way that money is being poured into, think of what else is poured off of that. One of the things I'm learning to appreciate more and more, the first time I watched, I'm not going to lie, I was only irritated because I knew we were trying to get something to eat and I knew the place was getting ready to close. But if you watch any of the Marvel movies, they do the long, you got to wait till the credits roll to actually see the scenes. And I remember my mother, I mean, when we were young, I'm talking about when Sky Parkway was still open. You remember
yeah.
Sky Parkway was open.
Movies there.
And exactly.
And everything.
$3.25 to get in there, man. Let me tell you. And you can bring whatever you wanted in there. We used to bring a whole lunch in there. But I remember watching the movie with my mom, and I'm like, all right, well, it's time to go. And she's like, no, I'm going to just wait. And it's a credits roll. I'm like,
yeah,
what do you mean? I hate it. But, and I remember making a joke with my mom. I was like, Mom, nobody's checking for the key grip work of Gus Johnson. Like, yo, Gus did that key grip job. I got to check this movie. Like, that wasn't happening. But what I did realize and what she gave me in that little small lesson, especially looking at it now, as I looked at once I got into kind of my own lane of like really learning business and industry, is understanding that there's industries across the board. When somebody tells you they want to be in film, when a little boy or girl says I want to be in film, you don't have to crush their dreams saying, oh, well, you can't be an actor. You're not this, da-da-da-da. Nah. Expand their mind and say, well, what does film look like to you? Do you mean just an actor? Do you know that there's somebody who's working behind the camera that's doing all the same things? They're with all those celebrities too, and they're all at these parties. There's people who are setting the lighting and setting the music. There's people doing the makeup or the dress and the attire. All these different folks. So when you're talking about the money that went spent to white people, understand them white people had to pay some black people. And there's a lot of black people that had a lot of jobs. Those credits were long as hell. The movie runtime was about 2 hours. The credits seemed like they was getting 15 minutes extra at least. But I'm reading the names. I'm like, okay, they had names from all different regions of the world because they did a lot of parts of that. But there was a whole lot of black folks in there. And those aren't the ones that aren't doing the interviews that you're seeing on everything like that. So just understand that when we're talking about where a dollar goes, a dollar is broken up into 100 pennies. And 100 pennies are since spent in a lot of different areas. So, yeah, I spent that money to go see Black Panther. That the check is going to be cashed to cash Disney and Marvel. But guess what? They're going to be cashing out or writing checks to black folks who are going to be doing more work. That are going to put more of our culture into things. So I
didn't even talk about the culture value of it. But I want to say too, brothers, that there has always been black people building schools. I have a friend who's a director of a clinic, a CEO, and she's have a clinic in that black doctors opened February 20, 1960, a black clinic. A clinic for black people, of course, a full medical building in 1960, and this sister just reopened it. So when we talk like this, and I get what you're saying, but there are people who are already doing it.
Yes.
I think sometimes we talk like ain't nobody doing nothing, and that's how I could tell that people either they just listen to stuff on the internet or they ain't been in their community. But that's across the country.
Yes.
So we are, there's some of us that's on our game. We may say maybe we can see more of or whatever. I'll take that. But black folks, I mean, all of us were not asleep. All of us did not get turned out on crack. All of us did not. Some of us we always through the years, we've always been working to uplift our people. And we got to change that mindset.
We got to change that mindset. And I think one of the other things, too, is, like you said, we got to keep talking to. A lot of what we don't know is because we're not talking. You don't know what you don't know until you have a conversation. You're like, oh, that exists? What? For real? Now I kind of find out about that. So even where, the conversation may come off with a tone that says, like, yo, we feel the way about that comment, it's more so about, for me, it's a lot of learning in that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I look at it like this. We get stuck, and this is part of that capitalist mind state, that there's only one person who can do this thing. There's only one person who can make, this fly clothing that we rocking and whatnot, and he's the only one who can do it. No. And even if he is, don't get it twisted, he needs help to do that. So what happens when we understand that we could have 5 African print shops in one plaza?
Hell, there's 5 Chinese restaurants in one damn plaza, and all of them is full with us.
Man. So why aren't we creating that reality everywhere? We can fully feed.
I'm right there with you, brother.
We can have four different soul food spots in one little platform.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Serving different types of Southern cuisine.
Right.
Bayou's very different from Mississippi.
Yes, it is.
And they're right by each other.
At the African American Smithsonian, when you go to the Soul Cafe, they got all the different food black folks make, from West Coast to the East Coast to down south to Midwest to up north. Northwest. I mean, y'all, we are fantastic people. I just feel like part of knowing you can win is that you have to believe you can win. And I believe that there's nothing new under the sun. And all the things we're trying to do means that we're so in line with our ancestors, because they did it before. We just have to do it again. Absolutely. That's how I see it. Absolutely. I feel like there's nothing wrong with doing whatever, because we know where we live at. Hell, other groups are here too, but they dollar turnover more times than our dollar turnover.
Oh, wow.
And I felt like I think that we need to give support to people. That brother that made the film, this is another thing, he seemed very down to me.
Oh.
That's the other part. And I know people who are really twitchy and whatever, we don't even mess with them. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, we just
we let them slide through. But the people who are the real revolutionary that's really getting it in, we want to put them at the glass like you have permission to do that. And I'm just saying in general, when we should let him do what he do and make the other black politicians who use us and abuse us get on their ass.
Yes.
I'm just going to be honest, excuse me, but I just feel like we got to put them under the microscope.
Yeah.
And there's poverty pimps all over. Wherever there's a black community and we suffering, you bet your bottom dollar there's one of us helping people to get over on us. And we need to be putting them in check. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, 1,000%. Accountability, man, that is something I'm huge on. I think.
Give me 4 things you live by.
4 things I live by.
Sorry.
Accountability, respect, trust, and loyalty.
Okay, say what you're saying. I'm sorry, I'm gonna write that down.
No problem.
Accountability, respect.
Yep, trust and loyalty.
Trust. Okay, go ahead. Say what you're saying. I'm gonna type this in.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, those 4 things right there, like it's core values for me, because I feel like I got to be accountable to myself and those who I rock with. There's a village of folks that I'm blessed to rock with in this community work, from the front end to the back end. Some of the folks who chimed in today, Sister Deborah, Sister Labor, Queens, I love to death. Of course, my sister Danielle, you know what I'm saying? The Berries, Keon. We can go down the list. And if I'm not accountable to myself first, I can't be accountable to them in what we're doing. Respect on the same level. Like, if I don't respect you, I don't respect your time, I don't respect the life and the gift that you are, then how are you going to do that to me, and how are we going to model it to who's watching us and who we're pouring into? Trust, it's I will be very honest, I do not trust easily. I give opportunity to trust very easy, because it's like, you give me a reason not to trust you to a degree, but once you do, I understand where you're at. And that's not even saying you're a horrible person and I'm never going to rock with you again. No, I just know the level that you're going to rock with. You can get that fuck out of here, you know what I'm saying, in an instant, but I'm still like, yo, get the fuck out of here in love. Don't get hit by a car, please. I don't need to clean that up. I'm kidding. I have less sense of humor. But like, I really do believe that it's something that if I don't give an opportunity to trust, I'm not giving an opportunity for you to lead and operate in your gifts. And where I say that, it's not like I have control over. No. There's a capacity I have as a person, the way I see things, the way my mind's going to take it, and everything like that. There's a capacity you have in the way that you see things and everything like that. So if I can hand off something that I have, if I can trust you with something that I have, in your gifts and your talents and your abilities, and you can take it beyond, that trust allowed us to grow on a way deeper level, and to where even where you go off and have the success that you have, and I'm having the success I'm having because of what we did there, I know that we both know that if you look back to me or I look back to you, what you need. What do you need? I got you. It's not I got to do probably somewhere in there where trust kind of went a little left off of. And loyalty, because I think that's hand in hand with the trust. If you're the ones that for me, the ones that I give that trust to, I'm very loyal to. Folks know, the ones who know me best, man, if I ride with you, I ride with you. Even if I might be gone for a day, man, if you need me, if I show up, I'm there. It's no in-betweens or whatever. I'm rocking with you. I feel that same way back with the people who rock with me, and I love it to death. That's where family comes from with me. That's where, like, when I identify somebody as family, that is. I'm loyal to my family And not saying that we don't have disagreements, we ain't gonna have points where we don't see eye to eye and we want to go different ways. That's cool. But trust and believe, at the end of the day, if something's about to happen to you, it's about to happen to me first, because I'm not gonna let that rock like that, especially if something wrong. Now, if you need to atone for something you did, accountability, first thing I started with. Be accountable for what you are. But those are just core principles of, like, if nothing else, if you know nothing else about me, you'll know my character before you know me. And I feel like that's an important part of my life's work, because that's what I'm called to do. I'm called to try to help build bridges and pour in.
Brother, in this last 20 minutes or 15 minutes or so, what advice would you give to the black woman, the black women who are holding on and waiting for the black man?
Be honest with them, and be honest with yourself. Too many times we want to point a finger at what somebody is or isn't doing, and we're not looking and being honest with ourselves in the mirror about what we're doing that may contribute to that or trigger that. If you're seeing the same situation with different people, oftentimes it's probably a contribution that you put into it and less about them, because these are completely different people from completely different walks that have a completely different life before you came into the picture. So to get that same response or that similar reaction speaks to something that you're bringing into it. And again, that's both men and women. I'm not going to isolate that to women. I mean, we do it too. But in doing that, understand that there's these different roles that we play into it. Don't lose sight of what your value is ever. Know your value above all else, for yourself, for your family, for who you're going to sow into, for the seed you may eventually carry. Know your value, because your value is going to be poured into different vessels for that reason. And where that's poured into, you can pour it into a broken cup and it spill right out.
Uh-oh.
You know what I'm saying? So understand that where it comes to the black man, a lot of us are in states of brokenness or cracked and not fully broken yet. But that what you pour into us can either open that crack wide open and make it broken, or it can mend it and make it stronger than it's ever been. Black women are gods. Men are gods. We're all God, because I believe God is walking with all of us. But where I see in a black woman, you have a unique gift that few others will ever have an opportunity in any lifetime to possess. And that's that you create nations, and you create kings and queens and so much more. And if you have an opportunity to do that with a black man, understand that there's work that has to happen in him, but there's also work that has to happen in you too. And if both of us are intentional about how we care for the other as well as ourselves in that, it only stands to get better. Now, of course, it can go wrong. You got to know when you got to get out in that whole nine. But understand before you're getting out, is it because you caused it or they caused it, and can it be fixed? And if it can't, then you know what you got to do. But if it can, if it's something that you can intentionally do or you want to do, then you know that you're in the right place. So don't give up on the black man. Please don't give up on the black man, because I trust and believe as many times as some of us who have gone off and been with whoever else. I've never done it. I'm sorry. I'm truly. It's what you do. Everybody should. I ain't got to worry about it. Look. No, that's all love. That's all love. But really don't give up on us, because I'm telling you, when our magic comes together, it's something that builds. It's amazing. If you need an example, just look at the bushes. I swear to God, everybody needs to watch that video.
Yeah, the bushes. Yeah.
I mean, they had, what was it, like 5 kids under 18 that had master's degrees.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
They graduated high school and graduated college in concurrent years, and they got their master's before they hit legal age. And this is in the black household. Come on, man.
It can't be done. What advice would you give black mothers who are raising their black sons? Because these are like something I like when I have a man here, they can share their wisdom. What advice would you give to a black mother that's raising a black son who's really trying the hardest to make sure
I'm going to say shout out to my sister Tia for giving me the verbiage to use right now.
Okay. Shout out to you.
Intentionally build your village. While you are the main vessel pouring into your son or your daughter, but into your son, understand that there's going to be other elements that pour into him too. If your village around him, the school, the people that you know at the school, the friends that you trust around them, the elders that are around them, if you have such a bond and an understanding of what you are trying to do with your young king, young queen, they'll be able to pour into that vessel when you're not able to. They'll be able to pick up where you actually need to step back and do the other parts of you, so you're whole, so you can be whole for that king or that queen that you're raising. It's be intentional about it. Don't just like, okay, well, they're here, so all right, I'm gonna trust you because you're kind of a good person. Man, if that ain't the right person, pull that back. You have that control in a sense. And do not use that baby as a weapon against a past hurt against their father. If their father is trying to be in their life, give them that right.
Real talk.
That baby was made with both of you, not just them. Some dudes are horrible in relationships. They've done horrible crimes to you. I'm not excusing that in any sense of it. But that baby deserves to have their father in their life, especially if he's available to be there. Do not be the reason that they have to grow up in a reality questioning, where was my dad in this? Please do not hold that baby away from that father, especially if he's trying to be in that baby's life. Don't do that. It is a crime to that baby. It is a crime to that father, where both of y'all made that life. Gotta say that.
Next one, importance of spiritual foundation when building this you just used the word, and building this village, and building this vessel,
absolutely.
Important of spirituality in that.
I say it's extremely important, if not, it's the most important thing. Let's just call it what it is. I won't waver from that. In my stance of what I believe, you got to have a spiritual foundation in something. Again, if you want it to be reproduced and to reproduce, the correct way, you got to have the correct source that you're drawing from to do that in. All of us, especially those in the village. Now, again, I'm not saying that everybody has to believe in one particular religion, but have something that you believe in that is just. I'll say that is just and moral. We don't need to develop killmongers because they operate out in hate. Don't get me wrong. We need strong ones. We need warriors, and they will come too. But they don't need to be operating out of hate and hurt.
And last question. You're doing really good. We got 5 minutes left. What things do you think you need to have in order to build a loving relationship?
Oh God. That was the first one.
This brother's heavy right here. What do you think we need? Now this is it's a church next door.
Yeah.
Did you hear the temple of the music just changed?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm like, tell them I know, but this is like some.
When God moves, man, He moves, and you gotta embrace that energy, and that's why I love this space. So to reiterate the question, so I'll make sure I hit it in its entirety. What do you need to make a relationship?
You think about the black man, the black woman. What do you think we need so that we can be together, be balanced with each other? What do we need? And I only say that because somebody out there listening is really needing to hear that. Because most times we hear a lot of, he gotta have money, he gotta have a car, he gotta get my weed. No, that's not what I'm talking about. We need.
I'll say it because I believe it personally. You need that spiritual base. If you're not a particularly spiritual person in that regard, you need to have somebody that's equally yoked with you in what your baseline of what life values are. Shout out to Jermaine, and Keanu in that regard for the universal baseline where that primary tier.
Y'all definitely brothers. I know that. Y'all close ranks on the sister of the minute. No,
hey, bird. Look at the bird. But
what do you think we need? I'm sorry.
It's good. I think we need to really have a balance if you are equal. They say equal yoked in the Bible wise, but I think it's just more so an equal view of what we're viewing this life as, and the ability to talk, be honest, be real with one another in a sense of where you understand that person who's talking to you is operating out of love. When we're in relationships, a lot of times we'll take something that's being said as an attack or as, oh, you're getting at me, or whatever. And it's like, if I'm the person that I'm laying my head with at night, or if that's the reality that you in, if you feel separate, which is very old, I don't know, people still do it, I hope they do, whatever. But if you're the person I'm trusting that I can rest with, I can, as my brother Chris Poon said, take my armor off with, the last thing that I'm going to want to do to you is attack you, because when I'm asleep, you can take me out. So we got to understand that we have our triggers and our past hurts that we've been through. So be intentional about that bond that allows you to have space to say, you know what, I got to call it to you and be real. This came off fucked up, or I didn't like how this hurt me. And understand that while you might not have intended it to be that way you say it isn't all the way that it's heard or that it's received. Shout out to my boy Jabbar.
He just said, how will I know if I don't know? Okay,
Jermaine,
okay.
How do I know if I don't know? But it's, hey, that's real. But it's, you won't until you kind of talk about it, though. And that's the whole thing, is you got to be willing to really have a dialogue and talk about it to where you're not running from the difficult conversation. You're digging in. You're willing to accept, hey, you know what? Maybe I did come off away. And if you got to step back. Take time, calm, get your emotions right. Do what you got to do to really filter in. And then from there, like, again, if the talking ain't working, write it out. Let y'all read how it comes across.
This is my absolute last question before we wrap it up, because we're like an hour and a half, whatever. How do you feel being a black man at the age you are now and still living, when we know that the life expectancy of black men, or some black men, they say most of y'all don't live long enough to collect Social Security?
I honestly
How do you feel about that? And that you earned those grades, and no, seriously, because most people don't live. I mean, a lot of brothers don't live that long. And it ain't that. Look, some hip hoppers had a heart attack. I mean, just like I'm like, I can't even remember the names, but I was like, wow. Yeah. So how do you feel? That's gonna be the wrap up question for me with you.
I literally feel blessed beyond belief, because I can honestly say I didn't expect to be here, and that happened in different phases. The time I turned 21, I felt so proud and so happy, because I was like, man, I made it. I'm alive, because I know a whole lot of folks who didn't, personally. And then at 25 and at 30, that happened again. And I'm like, yo, I'm still here. And it's a sad reality, because while I've had this bigger vision of what I wanted life to be, I couldn't tell you what 31, 32, 33, 40, any of that looks like, because I didn't expect to make it past 30. And in all reality, 30 was like the end point for me. I just didn't. And it wasn't because I was leading a particularly reckless life. I did a lot of reckless shit, to be honest with it. A lot of reckless shit. But I also know that I was making corrections, so I didn't stay on that path. And even still, I didn't expect to be at this age. And even now, I'm still checking, like, okay, what do I got to do to make sure that I got 30 more of these to go through, and a 30 more on top of that if I'm blessed for that. But it's truly blessed, because at this point, I'm learning as much as I can intentionally. I'm trying to connect with the right people as much as I can and pour in and give life back. I'm trying to educate as much as I can. And while I'm educating, learning in that process too. It's not just a wisdom down thing, it's youth up. You know what I mean? Youth come up. So
it's not a wisdom down, but say that, I like the way you said that.
Youth up. If you grow up, it's one of those things. So for me, it's a really rich experience. At this point, I love seeing my brothers and my sisters doing their thing. I love seeing the parents that some of my folks have become. And I gotta say this too, to everybody who's tuning in and shared and shows love and just in every way. It is a crazy reality that I can honestly say the majority of the people I know on a personal level are good parents and good to their families. Those two things are like huge. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot that I know that ain't that. And I pray for them. I try to, connect with them. I still got love for them the whole nine. But the majority that I do, it's like I can, yes, you doing that. You doing that. And that's a big thing to me. You know what I'm saying? And I also got to say, too, it's something that I don't talk about in a lot of space when we talk about African heritage and whatnot. I've been around African heritage and Liberia specifically since I was 5 years old. My best friend, their parents were from Liberia. They're first generation American. Kaifa Yates. Okay, I want to say one of his Danny. Oh, yeah. I can't remember Danny's last name. Okay. But I see about your age, right? That was like, that's literally my day. That's when we talk about day one, like that was my day one. You know what I mean? And to this day, like even him as a man, his son is a son that was his natural birth, and he's been out of that relationship since maybe a year into that kid's life, and that is his son full and through and through. I dare you to challenge him. And and to see like just the character of a man he is, and even the similarities, like there were differences I noticed, between Liberian culture and what we did our families, but a lot of it was very similar. I think the biggest thing that was different was that when we had the big family gatherings at their house, they'd have a period where they go into the garage, and the women and some of the men would do too. They'd have different dances that they actually practiced dance and rehearsed the dance and did the dance. And even like the wedding ceremonies were different too, but it was just always dope, and I always loved it. Like it's just family to me. And it's like that was just something that was so rich to me. And I remember listening to an interview that Ryan Coogler did where he was talking about he went over to Africa.
I seen that too. That was with our boy Charlamagne the Guy, wasn't it?
No. It was Ebro from Saturday.
Ebro. It was Ebro. I'm sorry.
Ebro.
Not sorry. Ebro. Yeah.
Ebro did, and but he was saying like how similar it was, though, just like this is just like this is not too different from what it is, though. That was just a real dope thing. I had to kind of look that up, though. Shout out to my brother, man. Love my brother.
Thank you for coming in. Now, Key, I done joined in. You know what, Key? Y'all need to really stop. Y'all need to really quit it with me.
Hey, look at the brother.
Look, brother, thank you so much for coming in and talking to me. You're so wise. Y'all the bomb. I mean, the black man is the bomb, y'all. I said it.
And we're.
How do I know if I don't know? I know now.
You don't know until you know.
And I know now.
Yeah.
So y'all, see y'all. I think I tune in tomorrow morning. I'm talking with the elder, I believe, out of Atlanta. Look at my calendar. Y'all, we got to get this crack and press that live button. Come talk to us. Tell us about your world. Show us some things that we know to be true, but to help make it real. Peace, y'all. See you tomorrow.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, let me hit this in, bro. Okay.